Okay. One good morning to those in the viewing audio and for those who are joining us online during the continuation of Max. We're in lesson 45, starting at chapter uh, 20, 25. 25. It's a Jew said and we pray. Amen. Getting started, we're going to start, like I said earlier, looking at Acts chapter 25. And we're really going to focus on verses 1 through 12. And this story, each part of Acts really focuses on Festus. If this was a movie, we would say Festus is one of the supporting characters. So the story is mainly centered on Paul and his going out and preaching and teaching the gospel. Right now, coming from Acts chapter 24, Paul was on trial and presented his defense against Felix. And we can look at some of how Felix treated Paul in this story, like you look at Acts chapter 24 and 27. We see that Felix wasn't interested in fulfilling his role as a governor in a righteous and beneficial way. And if you looked at verse 26, verse 26 in chapter 24, it reads that, talking about Felix, he hoped also that money should have him given him Paul that he might himself. Wherefore he sent for him more often than to be with him. But after 2 years, Festus came into Peter's room, and Peter, willing to kill the Jews at pleasure, left Paul bound. We see that Paul is under a corrupt Roman administration, or as how Governor Felix handled him in his situation with the Jews. And we see how that Paul is kind of laboring under this situation where his freedom is denied, he's being unjustly imprisoned by the Jews, and he cannot at this point attain his freedom, and he won't attain his freedom, period, because of the conspiracy of the Jews, and also you have this corrupt Roman governor who's seeking to benefit himself. And one thing that we can learn about scripture is that it gives us the proper perspective in so many areas of total life, right? Of course, this story in Acts is about the apostles going out and sharing the gospel, but also there are other elements here that we can take into consideration, right? When we see the administration of government officials and we see corruption, right? Should we be surprised that the scripture had already outlined that for us? Should we be so up in arms when we see corruption from corrupted people, or we see people behaving not as they're supposed to, and it causes us hardship, right? See how Paul was in this situation from no fault of his own, right? He didn't do anything illegal against the Jews or against Roman law. And so we see him in this situation where his freedom has been restricted, he's in prison, he's been unjustly accused, his freedom has been taken away from him, but how is he handling these situations? So when we look in the scripture, yes, Acts is about the apostles going out, but there are other things, undercurrents going on that we as Christians can be mindful of and take on. Okay? So if you see how Paul is conducting himself, he is a Roman citizen, right? Under Roman law. He should not be condemned or have his freedom restricted if there is nothing worthy and nothing can be proven, right? So when we are dealing and navigating this world, and we may find ourselves in a situation similar, or we see these situations play out, we know that this is an imperfect world, and individuals can find themselves unjustly in prison, unjustly accused. But how can we approach that, right? How can we handle these things? The scripture in so many areas of life give us an example of how we should conduct ourselves, no matter where we find ourselves in life. There is an example, there's a principle, and you see godly men and women handling themselves, and it's incumbent upon us that we look at the scriptures and see God's word and don't get so caught up in how the world handles situations that are unjust or unfair or may cause personal hardship or difficulty. But we see how as Christians handle these situations, right? And like I said, this is something that we should be mindful of as we're studying to try to take the scriptures being added capacity to see that there's a lot of things here that are out. Like I said, this for lesson 45, we're going to be centering in on Festus and um the lesson kind of like going back to the ones like why was Festus replacing Felix? Because we can see that Felix is a common, right? And so for those who ever been in a supervisory position, right? How have anybody here ever had to step in because someone was replacing other duties because they weren't important? And so if you come in to replace someone who has been a crook, thief, a malicious person, and everybody knows that this person's like this. So you're coming in and you see Festus coming in, trying to get his bearing as he's assuming the governorship from Festus, from Felix. And just to read a little bit to give us some context. And it says in starting at verse 5. Now when Festus was coming to the province, after 3 days, he ascended from Caesarea to Jerusalem. Then the high priest and the chief of the Jews informed him against Paul to assault him, and desired him favor against him that he would send him to Jerusalem, led in the way to kill him. It's really kind of interesting, like you said, for those who are in leadership positions, as you are moving into this space and you start to deal with people, and especially you're dealing with other leaders, you can get a real consensus about where people's minds are, right? Festus is coming into a situation of a governor. Um, he's new to the area. He's from, more likely from a Roman colony, a Roman province. So he's new to the area. It's almost like those of us who are in the military. We're at a location, all of a sudden we get orders and assignment, and we got to go to a brand new. So Festus is dealing with the leaders, established leaders of Judea, and trying to understand what's going on. And can you imagine that, being a governor, who's responsible for people, to the infrastructure, to the crops, the economy, the agriculture status. There's so many things going on in this area, and you meet with the leaders of the people, and what is the thing that comes to play? Their own personal self-interest. And like I said, you just want to kind of just look and see how he is going to navigate. He's fresh on the scene and he can't fulfill his role and try to understand his responsibility. But then you meet with the leaders and you see that they are consumed with their personal objectives. They're not interested in serving people, but they're also interested in serving their own needs. And so I just want to hold the audience here. Has anybody been in a situation? Seriously, when you come trying to get your there and do the right thing, and all of a sudden it hits you that the people that you're really working with are not really concerned with doing the right thing. They're only concerned about their personal interests, their personal vindictiveness. It's like, I want to get this individual. There's leaders like that before where you come in, you try to do this, but their sight is so narrow for one person that have offended them. It's like, sir, ma'am, we have so many things to do, but you want me to focus my efforts on this. Surely there must be something more pressing than this one individual. Your vindictiveness, your mindset, you've been offended, and it's like we cannot be on and do anything meaningful until what? You want me to address this. Out of all the things that I need to take care of, this is the one that's most pressing. So you almost can have a lot of sympathy for Festus in this situation. Anything else before we move on? Also, I want us, before I get too far in, I want to look at Nehemiah chapter 12, excuse me, Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 12 to 20. This one kind of like Nehemiah, looking at Old Testament, and he was one of the governors, back in trying to read when Jerusalem was being rebuilt, when the exiles were taken, Jews were taken into Babylonian captivity. You have Nehemiah who's been in charge to go back and rebuild Jerusalem, and he was a governor at that time. So I think this kind of gives us but sometimes we can have expectations of individuals of their work, but I think when we can understand the challenges that individuals are dealing with, it kind of gives us a better perspective of this. Nehemiah chapter. Yeah, Nehemiah chapter 2. Nehemiah chapter 2, verses, let's start verses 12 and 15.
Then I arose in the night, and I and a few men went with me. I told no one what my God had put in my heart to do in Jerusalem, nor was there any animal with me, except the one on which I rode. And I went out by night through the valley gate to the serpent well and to the refuse gate, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem which were broken down, and its gates which were burned with fire.
You know, read to the verse 1.
Then I went to the fountain gate and the king's pool, but there was no room for the animal under me to pass. So I went out in the night by the valley and viewed the wall. Then I turned back and entered by the valley gate, and so returned. And the officials did not know where I had gone or what I had done. I had not yet told the Jews, the priests, the nobles, the officials, or the others who did the work. Then I said to them, you see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lies waste, and its gates are burned with fire. Come and let us build the wall of Jerusalem, that we may no longer be a reproach. And I told them of the land of my God, which had been put upon me, and also of the king's words that he had spoken to me. So they said, let us rise up and build. Then they set their hands to this good work.
And so here in Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 12 through 20, you see the role of God, right? It's kind of mirroring the role of what Festus is trying to do. Nehemiah is new to the scene, so Nehemiah is going out and surveying Jerusalem because the city is dead. It needs to be repaired. So Nehemiah is going to, at this point, he's surveying the city again. He's not trying to have a good leader is not going to just take in information. They're going to go out and see for themselves what is the status of this area so they can go and understand where resources put, where their effort needs to put. They want to see what the problems is. Then they're going to engage with the people to say, how can we serve you? There are objectives to be met. And so when you think about a governor, right, of incapacity, they are there on the behalf of their nation state to make sure that the area that they're controlling is a fruitful area. It's an asset. Is it generating revenue? Is it generating agriculture? Is it generating all these things so that the people are productive, the people are peaceful, that taxes can flow back, right? So these are the things that a productive governor is doing. You can see it in Nehemiah, which is Festus is trying to, he's trying to get a understanding and survey of what's going on around him. Because he has some responsibilities to do. And another, if you go to Ezra, because Ezra and Nehemiah are kind of contemporaries, both of them are kind of working to rebuild. And so I think Ezra chapter 4, and kind of looking and seeing like the reason that Nehemiah is going this, and the reason that Festus is going all back around. I just want to go here because they have responsibility as a God. I know it actually may not be really clear, right? But if you look at kind of Nehemiah, chapter, 4 and verse 13, it tells, Ezra chapter 4 and 13, it tells the reason why governors in place and limiting what their work is supposed to be doing. They're supposed to make sure that all this infrastructure, jobs are there, agriculture are there, because the goal is that toll, tribute, and custom, because every nation makes its money based on taxation, right? And so Festus needs to make sure Judah is a profitable colony, because Rome is expecting tax, Rome is expecting revenue, it's an asset. And so he's been sent there to make sure these things are taking place. And also he understands something as well, which is this is been told of this area, even in Ezra chapter 4 and verse 15, that this city is a rebellious city. That they understand that the Jews are a rebellious people. They are freedom loving people. They don't want to be under the yoke. And this is kind of going back into the not too long ago, it's not captured in scripture, but it happened on the intertestamental period between the Old and the New Testament, that you have the revolt of the Maccabees. And so where the Jews rose up and through all their previous captives, and they established like the Maccabean dynasty, which is something that they know about the Jews, that these people will fight back. They're rebellious people, they're contentious people, right? And so Festus has this understanding, because I gotta maintain peace. But also I'm responsible for making sure that taxes and tribute flows back to Rome. So he has a job to do. And so in understanding that context, we can see kind of he's in the squeeze. He's in one of those parts where he has to deal with middle management. And for those who are in middle management, you can understand the squeeze. It's not a fun place to be in, because you have these supporting signs. Very difficult that you have to work with to be productive and accomplish things. And then you have your superiors over you, that they're not looking for excuses. They're looking for production. And you're walking into these situations where the idea is a lot of individuals can see the lawfulness of that position, but not the associated stress of it. And you're coming in blind, and you have to rely on the information of the individuals who are in charge. And so you see Festus going through these situations. Like you said, I think we need to make sure we understand the proper context of these situations, right? And I can imagine Dennis being, I won't call on him too much, because I can assure you that probably as he went from being a member of Newport News to a member of leadership, it's a whole different ball game being one of the General Assembly till you open up that, get involved in that leadership role. Now more is revealed, and now you have to engage with the individuals to accomplish the mission of the church, right? And so not everybody, several individuals have their own personal agendas. There's multiple stories being told on multiple fronts, and you have to try to work through and establish what is the effort. And so I kind of wanted to kind of paint that picture for Festus, because this is not a easy situation that he's in and trying to navigate and make the right decision, right? And even in being in this, when you can, there is a temptation when you're new and you want to curry favor, and you know that these people can make your life difficult. Sometimes you can make concessions and trying to establish goodwill that you should not, right? Instead of just coming in and put your foot down and saying, this is mine. Sometimes we come in and try to say like, hey, I'm here for you, and do all these things. And sometimes you can wind up compromising yourself. Um, and like I said, what did the Jews say? Right? This is very key. Out of all the things that you can do, try to outline what a governor is there for, for the people, the health, the financial state. They don't care about anything except the death of this individual. And so, and we want to look at something else as well. And then it's in starting picking up at verse 5. Back in Acts. Yeah, I'm sorry, back in Acts chapter 25, picking up back then. And it says like, how long had Paul been in prison, right? You look at verse, chapter 24, starting at verse 27. Paul at this point had been in prison going on 2 years, right? And then if they went to the Jews suggest they want they want Festus to go ahead and send Paul to Jerusalem so they can kind of try to lay additional plans to take Paul's life, right? And what things that we see is that it does the scripture does a good job of showing the wickedness and where people truly believe. It does a good job of showing us what is the motivating factor. And then what did the Bible say? What did Festus do? But Festus answered that Paul should be kept in Caesarea, that he himself was depart shortly then. Right, we see that Festus does have a backbone, even when you're engaging with individuals and you see that Festus did make the right decision, right? And what I don't want to do give Festus too much credit here, because back in chapter 9, Acts chapter 9, when when Jesus was talking to Ananias, there were certain prophecies made about Paul, right? That Paul was going to, let's go to Acts chapter 9 and kind of get a little bit, because I want to make sure as we're going through this study and things are transpiring, that we just don't look at this from the standpoint that Paul is being kept alive, being taken care of based on human consideration, being the goodwill of Festus, right? It is not because of the goodwill of Festus or the incompetence of Felix that Paul remained alive. Can I get a reader for Acts chapter 9, Acts chapter 9, verses 15 through 16, Acts chapter 9, verses 15 through 16.
Well, the
Acts chapter 9,
15 and 16.
yes.
But the Lord said unto him, Go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me to bear my name before the Gentiles, the kings, and the children of Israel. For I will show him how great things he must suffer for my name's sake.
In verse 15, it says that a prophecy was made according to about Paul that he was to bear the name for the Gentiles. We know that that work has been accomplished, right? To a great degree. But it says something additional. And kings and the children of the of Israel, right? We see that there is something additional work that Paul has yet to fulfill, which was prophesied about him. So what we see in this is that it's the word of God that is keeping Paul from these situations, right? So we don't want to say it's the goodwill of Festus or the incompetence of Felix that's keeping Paul alive. It's that prophecy that the word, the gospel is going to be proclaimed before kings, and in as we are in this section of Acts, we have not gotten to that point where Paul is going to present his defense and also the gospel for kings. So as we read these stories, I would say stories, this narrative, and we're going through, we just don't want to look at it like a movie that is just like human circumstance, human will, but we want to see God's hand in preserving Paul and all of this.
Acts 23, verse 11. I don't know if you're about to go there. But, that kind of goes along with what you're saying right now, how I see him doing. Because he said, "And the night followed, the Lord stood by him being Paul, and said, be of good cheer, Paul, for thou hast testified of me in Jerusalem, so must thou bear witness also at Rome."
Yes, and so that is what we want to keep the narrative and the focus on is the word and the will of God and trust in that. Because what we don't want to do is look, we can see certain things play out in this narrative, right? We can see that there are good, I want to say good for the sense of they're not Christians, but they have honest intent, right? They may have good intent, but they're not willing to pull that trigger upon and say like, he is innocent, he has no business here to do this. It's that when you are squeezed and you have those and you're in that place, how many of us will make the right decision instead of trying to appease both parties and find an acceptable middle ground? It's like that can't be done all the time, right? You can have that you can attempt to do that, but that is not always the case. And we will see in this narrative, in my opinion, as studying this, what we see is that you see the Jews trying to accomplish their mission. It's not going to happen. They can fight, get there, you're not out there wasting their efforts, right? And you can see, like Rome, you can see men willpower and influence to do the right thing. How many times do you see politicians willpower and influence? They have the ability to do the right thing, but what do they actually accomplish? We cannot be up here on goodwill. Or you do something like, hey, Festus, you did not, and Paul can say, Festus cannot be credited for not handing Paul over to the church. Because Paul is, you cannot get credit for doing the right thing to the right individual. That is not, it's like I tell my kids, they like me, well, that's nothing, that's standard practice. That's just part of being a good father, or part of being a politician. You can't get credit for all of these things. So when we look at asbestos, it's that you get no credit for these things. It's just like, yeah, they can do things, but will they actually accomplish anything meaningful? They don't. What's going to accomplish anything and what's going to sustain us is the word and the will of God, in which that people in our nation could learn that and rely on God, not that you keep looking at individuals and saying like, well, they have potential to do, but what will they actually accomplish, right? And even talking about our adversaries, like they're always going to be there in some capacity, right? They're always going to be there working, trying to subvert, but what are they actually accomplishing? Can they stop the will of God? We know that they can't, right? It's just keep beating your head up against that rock. Keep on. What are you going to accomplish? The will of God for Paul's life is going to take place. And what you're seeing is that we being caught up in this world, just like similar to Paul being caught up, you see all these human elements, these human design for and against him, but we trust in the will of God. And that's kind of what we're seeing is that let's not look at people, but remember if you have confidence in all these, what it seems like without God, take God out, it seems a lot of turbulence, a lot of uncertainty. This person leaving, this person coming in, but I'm still in the same. Good. That's good.
Paul knows that, he's gonna die. He knows eventually that that's gonna be his fate. But he's still gonna do the will of God. He's still gonna make sure, that he's gonna preach that gospel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some similarities, Joseph's story.
Yeah.
I mean, from one perspective, you could say like he had been forgotten and all those years, there was still work that he had to do that God had shown him those dreams from the very beginning that he hadn't accomplished yet. So, you and I on our timeline, in our life, we could say, when we're in an adverse situation, circumstances, people say, where's God or why is this happening to me? And without realizing or I mean, not necessarily us, because that's different circumstances, but even in Joseph's circumstances, how he had a mission that needed to be accomplished. And we get short-sighted and we see the terrible things that are happening and can be consumed with them, as opposed to there's still work to be done even for us. And reaching out to others and spreading out to them.
Yeah, like I say, I don't want to give someone free pass, right? God created government to do what is right, right? There is accountability to Festus to do what is right. And this person innocent release things, right? That's why you have this position. That's why God created government to effectively manage people, if you're in that position, you're supposed to do what's right. Now, I'm not saying that these people are all law of accountability. What I'm saying to you, they have a job, more often than not, will they fulfill their requirements, right? But what I'm saying to you, if they fulfill the requirements, great, but it's not always guaranteed, right? Everybody should have great parents. Everybody should have a mother and father to make them, right? Then you have to stay together and be a family and raise your kids. But that's not always the case, right? But if you're raised in a single home, and dad left, mom ain't crazy, whatever the case may be, you have the gospel, you have the truth. At some point, you need to get yourself together. There are multiple of us who grew up in single parent houses, all kind of craziness, but when the gospel came, or somebody told you what was right, what are you gonna do at this point? Yes, you deserve this. Yes, you should have this. But when you don't have it, and it's not present, you still can obtain and become what God wants you to become, right? And that's what I'm saying to you. There is, yes, things should be present, but we still have accountability to ourselves to focus and do what's right.
I think every household in the world,
Mm-hmm.
God's word is there. But you pass by it, you don't look at it, you don't take time. You read other bestsellers that people have. Yeah. All right, wrote books and bestseller. You wanna read that.
Yeah.
The bestseller is God's word, the Bible, but we won't read that. And then you can't say, well, nobody told me. I don't know, it's right there. But you pass by it.
Yeah, like I said, and speaking about human failures, right? Like they're real, like Sister Mack brought up the point of Joseph in like Genesis chapter 40 and verse 23, right? Jump to the end. The Joseph interpreted the chief butler's dream, right? Help him out. In verse 23, it said, yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. He owed Joseph kindness and restitution for saving his life. Now, unfortunately, it did come back around. You see, in verse 41, you know, hold on, read verse 41, Genesis chapter 1, verse 41. And it says, they came to pass at the end of 2 years, 4 years, that Carl dreamed a dream, and behold, stood about a dream. Right? 2 years later, Joseph given to jail. Verse 9, and the fact that Nebuchadnezzar dreamed his dream. Pharaoh dreamed his dream, excuse me, not Nebuchadnezzar, Pharaoh dreamed his dream. In verse Genesis chapter 41, verse 9. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my fault this day. Right? And then the chief butler tells Pharaoh about Joseph, and Joseph brought before Pharaoh, right? So what I want to say is that human failings is present, right? They are there. And what I'm saying for us is that we can dwell on them, but the idea is have that faith and assurance in God and not in man, right? But one, if you have that faith in man, when man fails you, your confidence and faith and assurance will go down and all of these things. It's like you just become cynical and disbelieving instead of like more people are gonna fail. You're gonna fail more people. But where is our hope and trust is it in God or is it
Even though he had asked what's something that person what his thought was. So remember him.
mm-hmm.
Cain, he forgot about it or just didn't remember, but see that's not the reason why. It's because when God wanted it to be revealed, that's when it was revealed that he can interpret dreams and stuff. That was, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, that was the time that God wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I see it a little bit. I can see why you see it that way, but my point is that the butler should have taken on. Way before him. Now, well, the thing about it is that the butler owed Joseph kindness, and he forgot about it. Now, we know that, now Joseph could have been a free man, the butler still could have referenced Joseph to Pharaoh because he was in his presence, make sense, but still the butler owed him a kindness. He could have went and tried to petition for Joseph's freedom. Now, if he came after the petition, that's out of his hand. But you still owe the kindness, just like Festus. Festus should have petitioned for Paul's freedom. This man is just, right? He has done nothing wrong while he was in prison, right? Now, whatever came after that, I said, whatever came after that, he had that accountability to do the right thing. Like, it's not about the results being favorable or your results in the action that you desire. If you go out, just like the gospel, you go out and teach the gospel, whether a baptism occurs or not, my responsibility is still to teach and not try to jump to the back end and say, right, this person let never do so I teach them. Okay? Instead of go and teach, go and do. Right? And that's what I'm trying to say is that we all have an accountability and not try to say like, oh, it was in God's time, but we didn't do what we were supposed to. Like, we don't know what God's time is, but we know what our responsibilities are. Is to do the right thing. And so, and not try to say like with the butler here, oh, God will, no.
I mean,
You do what's right. And
because say if when the king had these dreams, no one else can interpret
yeah,
it, okay? But then he was upset, I guess he wanted to kill everybody, whatever. But when that butler, it came back to the mind
yeah,
that there was somebody that could interpret these things. So then they called Joseph, but,
I do agree with what I'm saying that, yes, he could have, that did happen, but Joseph could have been
they,
free. He could have been free. He could have been free, and then he still could have referenced, they say, kings, or king and ability. But that part is correct. Like the mother can bring Joseph to Pharaoh's attention until Pharaoh has a dream, but still the idea is that you owe him a kindness that you completely forgot about. Exactly. You could have helped him, through to help him obtain his fruit, right? And like I say, when we have millions of people, we should go back and say, what did y'all do that he say? Because I don't stay in prison any longer than I have to. At least if you fail me, don't say it was God. We know that I stayed in life. Like it was God. We get it. And you're gonna say, oh, it was God. Yeah, I came here super middle church private fell away. Then I started going, this boy's children. He's a long time. And that just happened to wind up in the right place. Hey, man, you know, I think back to the church. Thank you. God will that you wind up in the right place. And what you were equating and you did not do the truth. And so I just want to make sure there's a distinction where if people don't do what they're supposed to and something very happens, then you're like, no, that means the butler should have done a time as a judge. He met the result later on. And so this is what I'm saying for Festus. Festus, if you know this man is innocent, go do something about it. You feel me? Philippians jail in chapter 16, when he mistreated Paul, once he realized that Paul did that kindness, and we're all here, harm not yourself, you know, and what did he do? He watched his stripes. He showed some measure of kindness, real time. He wasn't waiting. He didn't go wait for like the guard, as you supervisor, like kind of watch the stripe. He took immediate action. I'm saying like if you know something's wrong, are you going to take action regardless?
it's most of the last time to like,
And so like I said, I don't make sure when we're reading these narratives, we in reading stories, hold people accountable to do the right thing, right? Brother,
Paul wrote, Ephesians 16, as we have therefore opportunity, let's do good, especially unto them being impossible things.
yeah, and like we say, and like I said, the Bible won't illustrate every single thing, for us. Some in words and understanding, like, I've been in these situations when you are taking on someone, they give you a report, they walk you through the administration of the troublemakers, this situation going on, and you get a debriefing of all the things that are transpiring, right? And so you look at, Acts chapter 25 verses 7 and 8. It says, when he come down, then the Jews came down from Jerusalem, stood around the valley, made many grievous claims, fall, which they could not harm. Right, verse 8. While he answered for himself, neither against the law of the Jews, neither against the temple, nor yet against Caesar have I offended anything at all. But Festus spoke to the Jews of pleasure, answered Paul and said, go thou come to Jerusalem, and there be judged of these things before me. Then Paul said, I stand in Caesar's judgment seat where I ought to be judged. To the Jews I have done no wrong, as thou very well knowest. And he's speaking Festus. And he said, for if I be an offender, I have committed anything worth of death, I refuse not to die. But if there be none of these things whereof they accuse me, no man may deliver me into them, I appeal to Caesar. Right? The understanding that Festus knew that this man did not do anything wrong. And we can jump to ahead to the story of Paul for bringing up the same statement is made. Hey, there's a big man done nothing worthy of death. Once that information and you receive that information, now it's time to act. Now it is time to act, to do what do you want to do now? And so that's where I'm holding investors account. Once this has been realized, what are you going to do now? And I think that's a question for all of us, is that once you get the correct information, what are you going to do now? Are you, because there's going to be personal consequences for Festus in his position with Rome and his position with the Jews. But I heard a wise man say, am I willing to sacrifice righteousness for peace? And a lot of us at times.
And that's what's going to happen in verse 2, where sometimes people are ignorant of what the difference between what's doing right and what's wrong. The whole intention of it, like you're saying, is once you find out what's right and what's wrong, what are you going to do about it? It's in our ability to then take to the right, continue to do that.
And some people lie, and it's the other guy had a conversation with a feminist at work one time, and she was saying that, until the such and such, there was no law because a husband beat his wife. Really? It's like, until the law happened, common sense prevails. Don't try to act like you were just, there's no common sense, no accountability. We were just under oppression the whole time. Really? So what people try to do is like, unless it's a law, but even if it's you gotta be a law, and have the support from it. I think it's just like, it's just people refuse to use common sense, and they already have made a decision patterns in their mind. If I take this action, I know that I'm going to have a terrible time dealing with these people, right? And so, like, what are you going to choose? They want to do what's right and beneficial instead of doing the right thing. Like, I go back to the George Floyd situation. I don't care about the guy stepping on the neck, but you ain't gonna step on the neck next to me. It's 4 y'all there. We all gonna go to jail. We just all gonna have our life on it. Like, you step on his neck, whatever, get off. I'm telling you one time. You're gonna get slapped inside the head, and then you're gonna fight because I'm not going to suffer with you. Get off his neck. I told you not myself. Get off his neck. You can choose to do the right. Like, that's your business. But I'm just gonna sit here and attack the public. No thank you. No thank you. What about me? You made a bad decision. But the other three are just gonna sit there. And I'm gonna sit here and attack the public. No thank you. No thank you. What about me? You made a bad decision. But the other three are just gonna sit there. And I'm gonna sit here and attack the public. No thank you. What about me? You made a bad decision. But the other three are just gonna sit there What I gotta tell you? Do I need a law that says can't get another police officer? You are stepping on this man's neck. I'm being recorded, even if you're a sinner and evil and wrong, you're like, there's cameras around, and this is not going to end well for you. Somebody do something, right? Somebody do something to avoid this situation, right? These are the type of situations where I think, like Nina saying, it's clear cut. You know the man is innocent, you know this thing is wrong, this man is saying something, and I'm going to just allow this to play itself out. And that's kind of how I view this. Once you know he's innocent, let it go. I can't breathe. If you don't get up, I'm gonna knock this out of your head. End of discussion. I'll deal with the consequences later. I may need to come forward, I may never speak to you again, but I am not gonna let this person die and then deal with all of that that comes along with it, right? And if you have a problem, then you're gonna put it out there. That to me, that is clear cut. Or are you just gonna go with it and then the fallout is 10 times worse? Instead of somebody do the right thing. But somebody at the end of it.
We're just gonna say that there's another crazy thing. We do have a law that goes beyond to the law, not yourself. Whenever it comes to matters of how to treat our body, treat our fellow man, that's been there. You know,
And you don't need a lot of violence like on Sugar Ray Protect. They say choke till death. No, I'm going to love my wife. Love it. That statement shows is enough. There's enough understanding within you to understand what that statement means, right? And so what people I say people want a law, they want to be like, God, everybody, you understand it all. And so just like that, so once you realize that, you're calm now. Go ahead.
But you can see Festus, had a heart problem anyway, because of what it said about him wanting to do the Jews of faith,
Yeah,
pleasure. So that showed he had
yeah,
clear motive, not to do the right,
yeah,
because he could have done the right thing a long time ago.
yeah.
But, he's in this position, and so that position takes precedence over, what God would have.
Yeah,
Same thing can happen to us as Christians. Sometimes, even as Christians, and we get into certain things, and that becomes worse.
yeah, like I said, you're gonna send him to the people that are in that action slot. And you're just gonna be like, I was like, get those to lead to where they have more control, where they have all their flunkies and lackeys, and they can subvert and put hands on them even more. And so, but there's no garrison here, there's no safety here. I'm gonna send Paul to that place. And so, like you said, it's not us.
Washing your hands of making decisions in the Bible and without forever. I mean, how many times have people thought that if I turn a blind eye to, if I didn't see it, ignorance is bliss. It's taught to us that as long as I didn't say yes, then I should be able to be absolved. That's why those men thought it was okay to turn their back while this man was being killed for 8 minutes. That's why these things happen, is because they think it's okay to wash their hands of it, because I didn't actually do it. I wasn't actually the one. I didn't say that he did or didn't. Everybody's just so happy to just push it on to the next person and think that they can wash their hands of it, when God has shown action is required at all times. That's our exercising of faith, is doing something, not washing your hands and being lukewarm.
You know, like I said, so I'm trying to go back and show, I think, remember, we're all the time. The other kind of show is the complexity of the situation, right? You chose this position as governor. So now, you're in this position that you wanted, and sometimes people want the glory, hard decisions are going to be made. Are you willing to stand up, or are you going to go negative to the leaders and try to appease people instead of doing the right thing, right? You do the right thing, you save yourself and others. Like try to go to scriptures, try to save others as much as possible. But also, I gotta say for myself, I can't allow myself to be caught up in situations that's going to drag me down, right? And like I say, speaking about that, like I say, the tragedy that in most of the things, the right answer was easily understood. And somebody do something so that, these people have families, they have this, save, save this individual for themselves, right? And do the right thing, right? And so, like you say, in history will judge, right? History does not have anything favorable to say about Felix or Festus for their actions, right? They missed a beautiful advantage to hear and obey the gospel, right? And who knows where Festus' story ends, but for the scripture, it doesn't look like he submitted to the truth of the gospel and obeyed. That's that. Thank you for your time and attention. We're going to cut it here for our time. We just want to thank the audience for their comments, their time. Thank you.